Well, let's move on to the NDP now. The challenges facing that party in this campaign are well documented. Just a step away from government as the official opposition before the last election in 2015. The NDP may be fighting now just to hang on to official party status, or perhaps even more than that. The party leader, Jagmeet Singh, is having trouble catching on with Canadians, especially Quebecers. Fundraising has suffered and recruiting top candidates has been difficult, as we all know. Add to that the retirement of 1/4 of the party's 44 incumbent MPs. That's the picture facing the NDP leader in his first national campaign. I spoke with Jagmeet Singh in the days leading up to the campaign. I caught up with him in Vancouver. Jagmeet Singh, first of all, great to see you again. Thanks for taking time to speak with me.
My pleasure, Mr. Van Dusen.
As you get set to face your first election campaign as the leader of the federal NDP, what have you been doing to prepare for it? How do you feel?
I feel good. I feel excited. I've been spending time with the incredible candidates and really spending time to listen to what people are worried about. And I'm hearing lots of concerns around healthcare. People are worried about housing. They're worried about climate crisis. And we've got solutions to make sure people don't feel that worry and that fear, and we can make their lives better.
You have just a few weeks in an election campaign to try and turn Canadians on to your leadership, and that might prove to be a bit of a challenge. It has so far. And what's your plan to do it? What's your plan to get people to pay attention to Jagmeet Singh?
Well, we're looking at this upcoming election campaign as a great opportunity. This is where people are going to look at the Liberals and say, well, Mr. Trudeau really didn't live up to the promise, said a lot of nice things, but didn't really deliver on the changes that we expected to see. Mr. Scheer is not going to make our lives better. We've seen that show before. Conservatives come in and they cut the services that families need. They make life more difficult, more expensive. So that's not going to be an option. And then people are going to look to us and say, well, what other options are there? And we're going to say, listen, we believe that we can fight the climate crisis by creating good jobs, making sure no workers left behind. We can build 500,000 new affordable homes, and we can expand our healthcare system to include medication for all. These are things that people need and people want, and they see in us a real option. And so I'm hoping that during the campaign, we'll have more and more opportunities to show people that they deserve better. They don't have to choose between the red door and the blue door, that there's a real alternative. The Old Boys Club has had its time, and here's a real option for people that is going to put people first.
All right. What do you think is your biggest challenge as a new leader and as a leader fighting his first national election campaign?
I think it's just making sure people know where we stand on things. I think we've got great positions. We've got a great commitment document that shows where we stand, but we need to make sure that that's something that people know. And I got to work really hard to get that out there to folks and let them know where we stand. And also, it's going to be tough because we've got Liberals on one hand who have a long history of being really closely tied to the powerful in the country, the multi-billionaires, and there's a lot of evidence that shows that. And the same thing with the Conservatives, and they're also connected with the very powerful. So it's harder to find space given the two status quo parties that have so much space that they're taking up. But we're going to fight hard. We know that people need us. They're counting on us, and we're going to be there.
Okay, I want to get from you, what's happening in your mind, what's happening in your head as the leader of the NDP, and I want you to talk to me about the weight you might be feeling as the leader of a party when it's been a year of slumping poll numbers. It's a struggle to raise funds. There's been a challenge finding candidates. Why is this kind of thing happening to the NDP under your leadership?
Well, we've always had challenges. We're not the status quo parties that have got lots of resources, lots of money, and we do things differently, and I'm proud of that. So when it comes to our candidate search, we're trying to change the status quo, which is in politics, women are far underrepresented. Equity-seeking communities are far underrepresented. We're trying to change that, and to do that, that takes hard work, and that means working hard to recruit more women. And it takes a lot longer to make sure that you try your best to find equity-seeking communities like LGBTQ candidates, women who are candidates, people who are racialized, but the results are paying off. Right now, we've got 51% of our candidates who are women. We've got the most diverse slate that any party has ever run, definitely the most diverse slate that we've ever run, and that's our hard work paying off. It's not easy to change things, but we're confident that we can, and we're going to do things differently, and that's part of the challenge. It's also, we've got a democratic nomination process, which means we can't just appoint someone like the other parties can. We've got to go through the democratic process, and we're doing that.
But you've seen even your own poll numbers within the party. I mean, are you concerned that it's taking longer than you would have hoped for Canadians to sort of, catch fire with Jagmeet Singh? And how much does that worry you?
You know, I'm not really worried about myself. I mean, I was not into this game to worry about myself. I'm in it to worry about people. And I just spent some time across Canada. We did a little mini tour. And I hear stories from people, horror stories about the fact that there's young people that need medication and can't get it. And because they couldn't get their medication, they ended up getting horribly injured and then getting that same medication once they were in the hospital. And then healthcare workers just looking at that and shaking their head saying, why is this happening where a young person who needs medication doesn't get it until they find themselves so horribly injured and they're in the hospital? I mean, I don't want that to happen. I'm worried about that. I'm worried about young people that look at me with these eyes filled with anxiety about the future. That worries me. And I know we can do better. I'm confident we can do better. And that's what really I'm focused on. I'm not really focused on worrying about my own future. I'm worried about the future of this country. Okay. And I'm confident we can build a better future if we work together.
Let's talk about the province of Quebec, which had been the sort of big beachhead for the NDP and the Orange Wave. And you've seen what's happened there over the last number of years. The polls are suggesting that the remaining 14 NDP seats in Quebec can be vulnerable. How do you explain what's happening to the party in Quebec, and how do you turn that around?
Well, we've got to work a lot harder. I mean, we're going to continue. We've been working hard. We got to keep on working. That's who we are. We're fighters. We're scrappy. The province of Quebec is also a province of scrappers who fought hard for their rights, who fought hard for the recognition. It wasn't easy. It's not easy for us, but it's a lot harder for the people that we're trying to represent. And I want the people of Quebec to know that we're going to be strong allies. I'm going to be an ally for Quebec. I get the concerns around culture and language. And I fell in love with the French language when I was a kid growing up in Windsor. Really had no reason to, had no real significant exposure, but I found a richness in my life by learning French. And I want to share that love that I have for the French language with the French people across Canada, but particularly in Quebec. I want them to know I get the struggles, and I'm going to work hard to make sure we build up a better country, that we tackle the concerns around the environment, but making sure we leave no worker behind. And I'm confident that people in Quebec can see in me and see in our team champions and fighters, people who will be on their side.
Will you be on the ground a lot in Quebec during the campaign?
Absolutely. I want to share my story. I want to share how much I care and how much I'm committed to being a strong partner, someone who's going to fight for things like making sure that Netflix pays their fair share, making sure that the web giants aren't given a disproportionate advantage, which is hurting local culture and local community in Quebec. I want to make sure people know that I'm going to tackle offshore tax havens so that we can have the revenue needed to invest in our services. And I want folks in Quebec to know that our plan to increase healthcare coverage to include medication coverage for all is going to make life better for people in Quebec. Because even though there is a system in Quebec, it costs a lot. There's a lot of workers that spend a lot of their money on private insurance for medication coverage because they don't have a universal system. Our universal system will save hundreds of dollars for families a month. It's going to be a big difference in people's lives and make sure more people have access to the care they need.
All right. I believe that for every political leader, winning is the objective, and I think you believe that too. But you've already said you won't prop up a minority conservative government if Mr. Scheer were to win a minority conservative government. And I think to a lot of observers and some party workers, that would sound like you're conceding defeat even before the campaign's underway. So talk to me about whether that was the right thing to say. Should you be talking about anything but winning in an election campaign?
Well, I am absolutely running to become Prime Minister. There should be no doubt about that. I am running to form government in Canada, and I'm confident about that. That's our plan, and that's what I'm going to do. But when it comes to the Conservatives, I needed to make it really clear, given their comments that have come out, given the fact that they were unclear on the rights of women when it comes to abortion and the right to choose, given their position that was unclear on the LGBT community and their right to have same-sex marriage, when it comes to the fact they don't even believe in climate change, really. They seem to ignore the importance of this issue. Given all the evidence that we've seen, I wanted to make it absolutely clear that those are not values that I share. Other parties might say that they're willing to work with conservatives who think that human rights are just a luxury. They're not something important. I wanted to make it clear, given what we've heard, that is not on for New Democrats. We do not support anyone who doesn't share those human rights values, and that's why I wanted to make my position clear. But we're running for Prime Minister. I'm running to form government.
All right, let's finish on this. Walk me through where you see the path to victory for the NDP in this country in this election, because a lot of observers don't see the path to victory. Where do you see it?
Well, I see it in the fact that there's really a clear trend going on in this country where Liberals and Conservatives have made choices, clear choices that have made life easier for the multi-billionaires and made it harder for everyone else. And I can go through that evidence. Pharmaceutical companies. Mr. Trudeau chose to protect their profits instead of lowering the cost of medication with a simple no-cost change to the countries we compare when we're setting drug prices. He broke that commitment because he wanted to choose to help the multi-billionaires. Same thing with SNC-Lavalin, a clear example of breaking the conflict of interest law to help out multi-billionaires. And the Conservatives are no different. We've seen recently that Axcor, a powerful multi-billion-dollar corporation, made illegal donations to both the Liberals and the Conservatives. They've now been charged or are paying a fine. And it shows that multi-billionaires know that they can have Conservatives and Liberals on their side. Everyday people should know that New Democrats will be on their side. So if people want someone who's going to be fighting for them, it's New Democrats, and we're going to show that. And that's our path to victory. That's how we're going to show people that you can make a better choice that puts you first, puts people first, and that's what New Democrats offer.
All right, Jagmeet Singh, leader of the NDP. Thanks so much for your time, and we'll certainly be catching up with you on the election campaign. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.